Welcome to the Sports Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Luhr, and today I'm delighted to cross over to South Africa to catch up with my old buddy and fellow sports entrepreneur, Andrea Radrizzani. Welcome to the podcast, Andrea.
Hi, Marcus. Thank you for having me, and very well done with my last name pronunciation.
Yeah, we've been working on that the last minute here. No, fantastic. And, well, it's great to have you. We haven't spoken for a while, especially, of course, since you, moved out of this sort of agency world into the big business of ownership of football clubs and other things. And we'll be spending plenty of time there. And just as a sort of short first intro here, I'm sure everyone in the sports marketing or sports industry obviously knows you well from your days on MP Silva. And then in the larger scheme of things in the football world, of course, people will know you as chairman of Leeds United. So, but there's a few stops in between and many other things you do. And so that's basically what we're going to spend the next hour on here to explore a little bit how it all started, which obviously has some crossover and links to what I'm doing here in Asia as well, since you kind of started your career out here. So there'll be plenty of fun stories, and obviously we know each other for, God knows, as pretty much as long as you were both.
I remember.
Go ahead,
Marcus. I remember our first meeting in my Shanghai office back in 2004, 3 or 4, something like that. And when you were based in KL with Total Sports Asia, we met the first time in Shanghai.
That's right.
To discuss a project.
Yeah, so like I said,
it was
20 years
almost
here.
20 years ago.
Exactly.
Almost 18 years ago.
Great. So let's go back to those days a bit. Obviously you studied in Italy, and then you came out, and your first job was with Media Partners on a project was, I think, called MP Web there in 1999. Just tell us a bit about it. I always like to hear, how people enter the industry, how you got involved, and, a couple of the early stories of your career here.
Yeah, I mean, after university, I got the opportunity to enter in the startup phase of MP Web. So basically, internet and new media at the time was called New Media Division of Media Partners, a sports marketing agency. Right. So the goal was to start a project around internet and online business for football clubs or league and federation in sports. And basically, I arrived the beginning, the first phase of the internet boom, because back in 99, 2000, internet was really still early stage. And I remember we started to deliver the first live streaming in basketball with winter sports, with FIS World Cups, and then later with Serie A, with football, where really was very difficult even to see the ball, and the streaming was done at 56 kilobits per second. So comparing to what we do now, and with Netflix and all the other projects, I mean, it couldn't be even imagine what we could be achieved after 20 years.
Yeah, for sure.
It was the
early days.
We were really pioneers.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think we even called it streaming yet, right? It was just, I don't know what the word we used at that time. But now, so Media Partners, obviously, this is Marco Borgarelli, right? Were you working with him? Because I also saw somewhere that Ricardo was involved in it as well, right?
Yeah, I worked with Ricardo in the first initial 5 phase of the project, and then with Marco, that was the chief executive officer and partner of the agency. I have a great memory of him. Unfortunately, he left us last year because of COVID, and but he was a pioneer, very innovator. And what I like to remember him is that it could be a leader across different generations. So you could be friends and leading people of 25 years old, the same time the one of 60. So this very, very unique characteristic that only leaders have. And his energy, his vision was always fantastic. I learned from him, but I developed more my career in Asia, because I took this challenge to open the business for the agency in Asia. Initially, I started to sell a lot of rights in Japan, and then I convinced Marco to open our company office in Shanghai. So I moved in 2003 to Shanghai. And then after 2 years, basically, I realized that I was working very hard by myself, and I was a bit abandoned there. Not much support from Italy, from the other offices. So I decided to take a step by myself and move on alone, and I moved to Japan, to Tokyo, where I started to work as a consultant of SoftBank and many other media companies like NTT Docomo, and I was trading a lot of mobile rights for European football, like Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, in Japan, but also in other parts of Asia, including Thailand, Indonesia. So I started to develop my career in distribution of media rights, particularly digital rights, digital media at the time, mobile rights in football.
Yeah, like I said, I do remember those days because we bumped into each other a couple of times there. So how did that then ended up, of course, leading into MP and Silva? Obviously, the name MP somewhat is there, and then Silva, of course, that's Ricardo. How did that all come together?
Yeah, what happened was I was living in Japan, and I had always the dream to be in charge one day of running and managing the distribution of Italian football, Serie A, across Asia. So I started to have some conversation at the time with Rai Trade and Sport 5. That at the time, I remember I met Robert Miller from Sport 5, that is still back now, nowadays in the same company. I met him in Kuala Lumpur to potentially join the agency and run the Serie A sales in Asia. Then before to take the job, I wanted to chat with Ricardo and see if he had the appetite to enter in this business with me rather than take the job. And then he said, yes, let's do it together. And so we started with his family support. And he started to buy a few teams that they were promoted from second division Serie B. I remember were Fiorentina and Messina. And I was in Japan, so we facilitate Japanese players hiring in these teams. So we had Nakata in Fiorentina, another player in Messina, and I was selling the rights in Japan. I also organized, this was 2005, a tour with Fiorentina and Nakata with 3 games in Osaka and Tokyo.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, those are, I have great memories of what you were doing at the time, where at the end of the day, you're putting Japanese player into the league to bring the value of the rights up in Japan, which today is a great
exactly.
trick.
And then the following years, we increased the number of Japanese and we increased the number of teams. Right. So we start to have a much bigger presence with our broadcaster partners in Japan. And then Ricardo was good to secure the top team in 2007 with Juventus, Milan, Inter, Roma. Right. And so I think I remember I agreed and negotiated a joint venture with Dentsu, and we took market the rights together across all Asia. Okay. And in that moment, rather than take my commission for the deal I brokered, I asked Ricardo to invest together the same amount and create a new company. And then he asked me to call it MP Silva, MP to remind people that we're coming from media partners, and Silva because he wanted to include his name. And I didn't really mind because I was very happy to run my own business. So I was leading this business out of Singapore. We were 50-50 partners, and we started out in 2007 with an office in Singapore.
Okay. So and MP Media Partners had no real stake in it. So the MP was just a reference, whatever, in a loose sense. Right. Okay.
Yes. But this was the agency business that I created with basically with him. Mm-hmm. And I was leading as a chief executive officer out of Singapore. And immediately we started in his first year with few fresh graduated, and we started to make deals in Korea with baseball and football, making tour with Juventus. And at the end, I remember the first year we did like $15 million revenue and 2.5 million profit. Wow. Out of the blue, excluding all the Serie A. Yeah, excluding the Serie A business that actually was owned by Ricardo separately with a company in Dublin.
All right. Okay.
So I set up with him MP and Silva as an agency business, and we had a small commission to represent and distribute Serie A, but the rights all of Serie A were all by
sitting in company. Another entity. All right. Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't have any interest in that.
Gotcha.
Except being the agency.
All right.
And but I was very happy with the agency. We built a fantastic business because under my management, the agency, my regime was between 2007 2014, and we created 21 offices globally, and we represented and acquired rights from over 70 different rights holders, including Formula One, NBA, Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, so all the major rights holders, MLB, anyone. So I'm very proud at what we have achieved in that time, and but at the same time, I also sad for the way then I have left the company in 2014, and then after what happened after the sale.
Yeah, we'll come to that later a little bit, but I want to sort of dig a bit deeper into the MP Silva days, because there's so much obviously you talk about. Being a rights trader myself, of course, the MP Silva catalog at the end of it was probably one of the biggest catalogs at Sportel every year. Right? That alone just added a bit of extra luggage weight to your luggage. So you guys, like you said, you grew like crazy. Give us some sense on numbers here in terms of, not so much bottom line, but maybe revenue. You said you started at 15 million in year one. Where were you at the end, or what was the sort of journey up there to get there?
No, look, the milestone were, we in the first phase, we pushed to grow a lot in football, and I think we became leading agency in representing football rights. Right. I remember the best moment, probably the peak, the best of the agency was, I think, in the cycle around 2012, 2014.
You're talking about the Premier League?
Yeah, where we had Premier League for about $500 million in value, and we were probably the biggest agency that ever, in terms of rights acquired from the Premier League. That normally, how is the approaching the market direct to with a tender in each individual country. So normally for agencies it's very hard to acquire Premier League rights, but in that cycle we managed to have a very important volume of territories, and also
I think I read somewhere it was like up almost 50 or so territories, right, including the Middle East. Where were the other territories which you guys had?
Yeah, it was some in Asia. We had Vietnam, Indonesia, we had New Zealand, we had I think we had Holland in Europe, Italy, Europe. Okay. So we had a mix between Europe and Asia and Middle East, and it was about, I remember the amount, very close to $500 million investment over the cycle.
Over that 3 year
which
cycle,
is
right?
For one head. Yeah. For one agency anyway, it was a big, important
that's a huge
achievement.
amount of money, absolutely.
Yeah.
And let me ask a simple question: did you guys make money with it?
Yes. Actually, what I'm learning with the agency time, that when we acquire even at very high price top property, we always made profit. The problem was to make profit or performance with the other property, but normally with the top property, we always had a good outcome all the time.
Now, obviously, again, MP Silva was, I would say, famous to have the CVR rights. Now, earlier you said that was separate. Was it later on still separate, or eventually became part of it?
Yeah. It's been always separated until the moment we have merged the company before the exit, before the sale of it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so that I have to admit, I never, I guess, understood. So technically, it was an MP Silva. You were representing it or selling it, but the rights were sitting in another entity. Okay, got it. That makes some sense.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Now, again, sticking a little bit to the MP Silva part of it. Again, obviously, we spent plenty of time together everywhere and at Sportel, etc. What was the vision there? Just trying, because one thing I've always felt, you were very much purely focused on media. You weren't really going into sponsorship, from what I remember at least, or in other parts of the business. So was that deliberate, or what was sort of the plan?
Look, the strength of the company was to be very bullish, aggressive, and the key rights in most of the market possible, particularly the market where there is a strong fragmentation, or in the media landscape, so in the way that we can create different packages. And every time we did that, we did it very successful. I remember myself creating packages in Indonesia or in Vietnam, where we had a very strong margin, even up to like 80 or 100% ROI. The focus of the agency has been from the beginning the trading And this actually was the strength, but also became over the time the weakness, because that's actually the moment when I think me and Ricardo, we started to have a different vision, was exactly, and then this vision brought me to leave the company in 2014, was exactly the desire on my side to change the business and become much more IP owner and create more services to the rights holder, including marketing, sponsorship, including production, customization, social media, and many other activities that are linked to the technology that nowadays we see very relevant, like e-commerce or merchandise and many other activities that all rights holder need. And but at the same time, I think probably what my vision was would require investment and different a big transformation of the agency. That and we didn't agree on that. But at the same time, I would say nowadays we see that there is not really a need for an agency like before, because the number of the technology brought a global business, a global market, but also a fragmentation of services. There are so many activity that the rights holder need, and the knowledge has to be much deeper than before. So it brings the rights holder to work with many more companies and supplier in the different spaces, from NFT to content creation, short form content, long form like documentaries, social media, customization, analytics. So we have a wide series of services that nowadays the rights holder need that are impossible to have in deeper understanding from one agency, in my opinion.
Yep. No, I agree. I think the agency model has dramatically changed from the days we were both trading and arbitraging media rights across the world here. Now, one last question on MP is maybe, before we kind of maybe talk about the Chinese for a minute there, is one thing, and maybe I was always wondering, or maybe others as well, is how did you guys fund it? I mean, writing a $500 million check to the Premier League, and I know the Premier League has fairly stringent, ways of due diligence on whether the company is the money and all this sort of stuff before they would write, even sign a contract with you. How did you guys do it? Was it in internal cash flow which were generating to do it, or you had funding from outside, or how did it work?
No, we didn't have any funding from our side. We generate cash from the company, or the sister company with Serie A rights help in some case, but basically it was self-finance.
Right. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, another I think important achievement that was very good for the agency was the first Grand Slam we acquired in 2012 with a long-term partnership with Roland Garros. And I think it was the first time an agency acquired Roland Garros rights out of the EBU agreement.
Yeah, it's true. I tried it a few times. We represented the U.S. Open tennis for many years, so we did have a conversation with them, but we never got to the French. But well done there. I mean, look, we could spend the whole podcast just on MP Silva, but we don't want to do that because there is plenty more to talk about. But let's, so while we're wrapping up your MP Silva days, obviously we have to talk about the sale of the company, because to some degree that leads into what you're doing now, right? And provided some of the money which you're now investing in other areas. So talk a bit about it, the good part of, obviously bringing in his huge investor who writes a very large check, and et cetera. And then, of course, where it all went and what happened after. So let's talk about the good part first.
The good part of
them coming in, of course, and bringing in and obviously writing a large check for, a significant portion of the business.
Yeah, my personal situation, I think it was is a bit different because I was already detached from the company since 2014. Okay. So I resigned as the chief executive in May 2014. And the company was sold in May 2016. So correct. For me, it happened that I was 2 years already apart from the day-to-day and the management of the business.
Okay, understood. And again, just for everyone's reference, that was really the heydays of Chinese investment globally anyway, right? It was everyone was investing in sports or entertainment and you name it, right? You had large groups from China buying everything they could get their hands on, and especially in sports, because clearly it was from the leadership, there was a sort of message: we like sports, we like football, go invest in, which many groups did and created new entities, and Infront was bought, of course, by others, and so you were sort of you fell in that good picture there. Again, the numbers which are out there, I think it was $1 billion valuation, and they bought 60% of the company or something like that. Was that roughly about right?
Yeah. Yes, it was just a little bit more than 1 billion as an enterprise value, and we sold 65%, something like that.
Yeah, cool. Now, but tell us a bit. Let's say if you're talking about 600 million here, you own 50%. So let's say 300 million, or in that ballpark, coming your way here. That's a significant amount of money for most people in any circumstances. There, what was the feeling? Tell us, as an entrepreneur, to get a check.
I have two different views. As an entrepreneur, as a man, as a young man. As a young man at the time, I was excited and happy for a big reward for many years of sacrifice and being far from my family and working hard and traveling all the time around the world.
Yes.
But also it was confusing, because in the first 6 months, I cannot even count how many people tried to approach me to sell or anything, or to get me to invest in anything. So the first period, honestly, it was hard, because you're not prepared for something like that, and then it's like a tsunami in your life, because everybody knows and everybody try to you can see suddenly so many friends that you never had before.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, so so when you said you had a slightly different vision, maybe than Ricardo, and things you wanted to do, and getting into IP and I guess content creation, which is somewhat, I could argue, is what you then did, right, with Acer and 11, is but those sites. So let's talk about those ventures, afterwards.
Yeah, let me be precise. Ricardo is a smart and fantastic and pragmatic entrepreneur with whom I had a fantastic journey together, and we always remember the time and the experience of building MP Silva with a smile and with a big pride in our hearts. So we're still very good friends. At the end of that experience, we had different vision, and this can happen in many partnerships. And that's what brought me to leave the agency. And then when I created Acer, I wanted to build something different, that not an agency but an investment platform for myself, but also for other parties that are attracted to invest in media, sports, and technology. And technology apply obviously to media, sports.
So let's talk a bit about where do you want to start? You want to start with Acer, or you want to start with 11?
No, generally Acer started with the idea to become an investment platform for media, sports, and technology, as I said. The first project was 11 from 2015. And
was that sort of Belgium, Portugal, Poland? That was sort of one of the earlier places, right?
Poland, Belgium, and Singapore at the beginning. Yeah. Okay.
Right. They did Singapore as well. Yeah,
then we expanded to Taiwan, Portugal, and other places. But to be honest, it's been, especially at the beginning, a lot of bumps in the journey with 11, because it was a very different project than what I used to do and what I used to run. So I did some mistakes, but thank God I also hire a good group of people in management that they are still with me after now we are entering the 6-7 years of the group. And today we are proud to say that the company has reached an enough good size. We have over 350 million revenue. We are turning profitable this year. Fantastic. So we are present in 8 markets. So we are in a moment where we need to do a step up, but we are not a baby anymore, and we are more consolidated. But I think we are also acknowledged, and we are aware that we need now to make a step up and make this business bigger. That could be we are working different options like financing or M&A, but we are in a moment where the company need to do an additional step up, because I believe the the sports rights is a business that will be consolidating in a few big players globally, and so we need to be with one of them or get the finance to grow in our area, particularly in the second tier markets where we are doing very well at the moment, like Portugal or we've done in Poland, in Belgium, and so on.
But let me, and again, you may have answered the question already. When you launched, obviously, like everyone in the industry, I'm sure everyone is following a bit. The markets seemed to be they were unconnected, right? I mean, Belgium and Poland and Singapore and, Taiwan, they were all very, very different markets. Was that, like you said, because the certain rights you had was, so 3R or others, or how did you pick those markets?
Well, very simple. In the last phase of my life in MP Silva, I wanted to create a project similar to what Infon did with Serie A in Italy as an advisor of the league with a guarantee for the domestic rights. But rather than do one country at a 1 billion value, I wanted to create a project with around 7, 8 or 10 countries market where the value of the domestic rights would be in the region of 100 million each. Okay. So in this way, we could leverage the risk across multiple markets and also a very good outcome overall. So when this project started, I already acquired Poland and Belgium, and I was in discussion with some markets like Australia and Malaysia. And then I left MP Silva. So when I came back to help MP Silva with 11, I started from the market where I basically was getting the rights for MP Silva.
And so you had, when you say local, so in Poland you had the local league rights?
No, but that's what's supposed to happen, but then it didn't happen because MP Silva licensed to someone else. But right. In Belgium the same, but then now at the moment we have the domestic rights in Belgium.
Right, gotcha. Okay. I mean, again, let's not everyone might know exactly 11. I mean, sure, they heard the name, but so the way I would describe it, based on what I know, it is a combination of let's call it traditional sports platform, right? Because you have traditional channels you produce, right? Then you, of course, have OTT, and then you have a series of digital platforms after you merged or acquired Whistle, right? How would you describe it? What is it what I'm missing in the way what is 11 for you?
No, it's a content hub for sports where we distribute content via different platforms in an agnostic approach. We are using linear channels on telecom or satellite platform. At the same time, we use our own OTT. And we have a strategy that I like to show you in a triangle, where on top of the triangle, we have the top rights that we normally exploit in a second-tier market. There we have premium niche, which are content that are premium for a small group of community, like, for example, we do in Japan with the second division of baseball or in Italy with the third division of football. So people that pay because it's the only way to watch those games. While on the top of the pyramid, we have premium rights like Premier League, Formula One, and so on. In the second, Champions League in Portugal. In the second, the premium niche, we have premium but niche content. On the third one, we have free content, and we have a lot of football, particularly for the acquisition of MyCujo. We became probably the biggest OTT for long-tail football rights holder. Right. And we have recently signed a partnership with FIFA that will enable us to deliver over 40,000 games.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it was obviously a recent press release there, right?
Yeah.
So what is the exact relationship with FIFA Plus? What exactly are you guys doing?
We are operating the production distribution of games of many different federations. Right. In football,
and you feed it into their platform, then, is it? Or
yes,
right,
yes.
Gotcha.
and ours, and then one more thing I think I should mention is that we have acquired Whistle in US, which is a huge platform of reaching over 600 million Gen Z and millennial with sports content. So it's a big asset for rights holder to distribute content in the US. Yes. But at the same time also is a different business than our traditional business because you work more with brands and creation of content and distribution of content. And I think it's a business that we can develop more in Europe as well, and then gradually create more synergy between the distribution of the audience and the live events that we have as 11. So, but it's a process that we haven't started yet, and we are now working out how to do it.
Yeah, I had John West on it too a couple of months ago, and had a great, interesting conversation with him. Of course, your name came up at that time as well. So it looks like, that looks like an interesting merger because, it's very much, I would call certain things you guys do or had traditionally come in 11 was more the traditional way of distribution, and Whistle clearly is the complete opposite, right? It's all short form influencers and, very different type of content creation there. So it's an interesting mix of it. Now, so who do you see as competitor? I mean, you look at DAZN and saying, well, we're sort of them, or who would you compare yourself to?
No, really DAZN, because we have chosen to be agnostic, and so we produce and distribute channels as well. We do our own OTT, and also we operate in second-tier market while they're operating in a few big markets like Germany, Italy, and Japan. Right. So we are complementary potentially to DAZN, and definitely not in competition at this moment. Right. Well, as I said, I'm sure there will be big global regional players soon in the market, but at the moment it's still very fragmented, so country by country. So we approach country by country, but we also at the same time trying to build a global destination with the content of Whistle and the FIFA agreement and more content that we're bringing on the global platform itself.
Great. And well, congratulations to the FIFA Plus deal, which I guess everyone read about, and I guess everyone is still wondering how it will work. But it sounds like you operate as a service provider to FIFA Plus. Is that that's correct? Right?
Yes, correct. But we also, I would say, we focus on being local. So trying to be global on our OTT and certain partnership like FIFA and other content we have globally, but at the same time to be very strong with premium in local markets.
Got it. Yeah, great. Before we, I'm obviously later we're going to move on to Leeds, which is a whole topic on its own. But when it comes to the world of content, right, and 11 is right in the middle of it. Have you played around in the NFT space? Is that something you guys are doing in some form or shape with Acer or anyone?
With Acer, yes. We have invested in a company called The Chain, which is providing a white label solution for content owner to mint and distribute NFTs. Okay. So this is more a platform, and then we are now setting up a new business with together in joint venture with Create Media. Create Media is an agency we have invested in Sweden. They are very good guys in digital marketing, and we are creating a studio NFT agency with them to create the concept and also support the content owner in the creation of the collection and the strategy to drop, and also to build a hype on social media like Discord or Twitter. Right. So we're very active. It's a sector that I've been studying for the last 8 months a lot, and we are investing in these two businesses at the moment.
Interesting. Please go ahead.
Yeah, and I need to launch my vape that will represent these businesses and myself.
Right. Any particular content or deal you guys launched already on the NFT space, or is it still a work in progress?
No, The Chain, the platform, have done at the moment 2 partnership with the Italian Basketball League and another one with the third division football as a test case, and in this discussion with some other rights content owner, more international. So we expect to now finalize, and these 2 projects initially were done in Italy as a test phase, and now we are about to launch probably 1 or 2 projects internationally in sports.
That's cool. Well, we'll talk some more about that later too, because I do various things in that space as well. But let's move on a bit and let's talk some football. The first question obviously would be, was it a boyhood dream to own a football club? Or how did you get into, why did you think owning a piece of the inventory of the IP was the way to go? Because I saw a video earlier with one of your advisors. I can't remember the gentleman's name now. He kind of said constantly, Andrea, don't invest all your money in football. So I can't remember who it was.
He was on the series on Amazon.
Correct.
Yes.
So, but tell us, how did you get into the world of football and how did you end up with Leeds? Love to hear that.
Yeah, it was. It's not something really I planned, because it's something that always looked so far and unachievable in life. But sadly, I found myself into this, and it was a casualty, because I was having, as I said many times in many occasions, I was having lunch with a group of friends and Kenny Dalglish ahead of a Champions League game in Manchester, and he was talking about this sleeping giant of Leeds United. So I went after that day. I did my research, and then I contacted the previous owner, pretending to be an investor. No, sorry, an agent for another investor. And then he gave me some information, and then I contacted him. I said, "Look, maybe I will do it myself." And then he said, "No, okay, then we do together." So I had to negotiate a long time to make this deal done, and stay with him 6 months. And then suddenly, finally in 2018, I was able to take over completely the club, and it was and it still is a fantastic journey, because not only the business side, but particularly the social impact of football is enormous. Is amazing what we have achieved in terms of giving people the joy of a promotion after 17 years. Yes. In Premier League. So, and it's something personally also I could never imagine that. I mean, obviously, we are busy we work in sport business, but that day, I never thought about the business side. I was so glad and so happy that for these people, for the fans, for the people, that everything else was not important anymore.
Now again, I don't know whether I have to admit I didn't check properly but what is public there. I mean, give us some numbers, what it took to buy Leeds, and I know you said that you bought 50% first, I think another 50 later. I mean, sort of just what are the public numbers out there, what people know, what you invested in.
I invested to buy plus to renovate, to buy the stadium. I invested about 100 million. Mm-hmm. About 100 million, and at the moment I got back probably half of that, and the club now is an evaluation of probably 3.5 4 times.
Right. Okay. So 350, 400 million is a sort of valuation we're talking about. That's pounds, I'm assuming we're talking here, or
yes.
That's again amazing. Now, football clubs obviously have the tendency, and I don't have the numbers from Leeds in front of me, but they even if their value goes, that doesn't mean they make money, right? Many lose money around the world. Don't know how it is with the Premier League, because of the huge sums which go in there, but also, of course, the payrolls are large. Is the club profitable in a, let's call it, basic P&L sense, or where is it right now?
Yeah, in the last year we have done 26 million profit. All money that is still invested in the club. We're not taking out anything, but we are obviously the profit, the P&L and the cash flow are different things, and the club still need some help, but soon I think we'll be able to be self-sustained and profitable. Yeah. And I think the club is very important to be able to consolidate the Premier League this year and the next one, and then expand the stadium capacity. We have already a project. We own the stadium. We own the land around the stadium. We have a project to expand the capacity to 54,000 seats. Mm-hmm. And that will be very, very important, because it will bring the club to around 300 to 320, over 300 million pounds revenue. Right. And I think with that kind of volume of revenue, we could potentially stay on the first side of the 10 teams on the standing. Right. So and I clearly, think at the end,
that's the ultimate trick, right? You have to be in the league. You have to be in the Premier League.
No, yeah. Besides that, we need to stay on the first 10, and in the first 10, we can stay if we can expand the stadium, because at the end it's about numbers. And if we are already a big club in England, one club, one city. Our revenue is 200 million this year. Mm-hmm. So if you compare, we are the same revenue than AC Milan. That is a second in Serie A.
Yeah.
So it's incredible. But we can do better, but we need the facility, the platform to do it. So we need to expand the capacity of the stadium.
No, that makes complete sense. And when I was reading up and I saw that you bought the stadium as well, that makes a lot of sense because
but
that's
we
a real
play in a
asset.
stadium. We play in a stadium that has 100 years and is 100 years old, and only 37,000 seats. That is always sold out. But also the difficulty of playing in such an old development is that we cannot innovate and give maybe premium service in some area of the stadium. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, yes, we want to keep the price low for the fans, but at the same time also we should be able to innovate and create more premium service for sponsor and activation of partnership, in order to increase the revenue of the club.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Let's talk about 49ers. Again, completely different part of the world, completely different sport. How did they get involved, and what do they see in this partnership with you and Leeds?
Well, it was an introduction from a common friend, and then we like each other. We started a conversation, and then they decided to join this project with a small investment when I still was in the championship. And then gradually every year they increased the investment, and at the moment we are 50. They started with 11%, and now they are 46%. Mm-hmm. Beside that, we became very good friends. So there is a solid base of trust between us, and also I think I like to say that comparing to other ownership, we are very unique because. We bring at the table expertise in sports business in different fields of the sport business. So I'm coming from a media marketing background. Mm-hmm. They're coming from venue building, venue management, and the sports science, where they are very deep involved in NFL. Mm-hmm. So we bring know-how and experience to manage the club better, hopefully to develop the club as we want. And this is very unique because for us, sport business is 24/7, our activity every day, while other owners, maybe they have other activities in other fields, in other sector, and then they also own the football.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, I read a bit about it, and it's definitely a unique setup. I was aware of when they were increasing there. I think I saw even some prospectus of when they were raising some of that money. So it's all very interesting having an ownership from the football world in the U.S., from American football, involved in English football. I'm sure there's some interesting learnings there. It's good to see.
I think we are a good melting pot. We have American, Italian owners. We have American coach and Spanish football director and English CEO. So we are a good mix.
Yeah, you got everyone there. Now
everyone land in Yorkshire.
Exactly. Now let's again go a little bit back to the actual playing part of it, right? When you came in the first two seasons, you were in the championship. And I think one of the seasons you guys were very close, right? You were in the playoffs and you lost the reverse leg, I think, fairly narrowly. So I'm sure that fairly heartbreaking there to get that close and then still missing it, which sometimes means the next season you can't just always repeating it. But so how did you feel? I mean, did you have the belief that it is a matter of time? You will make it up there, or what was the sense in the first couple of years?
Look, that moment when we lost the semifinal with Derby County was very, very difficult, very tough. But in the same time, I had to believe in the process and I had faith. And sometimes we can choose the timing. Someone else there in the sky does for us.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. And I had to still believe in that. I believe in the players from the day one, even in the first year when we didn't do well. So, and I told them that they were Premier League players, and the fact that they confirmed it after years I'm very happy because they've grown themselves, their skills, their personality, their maturity in the squad. Thanks also to Marcelo Bielsa, who did an absolutely fantastic job for our club and will be always remembered. And So at the end, it's a process, and I had to keep the faith and keep everybody believing in that, even when they think they didn't go in the right way. And that's what, at the end, what we've been rewarded the year after.
Yeah.
But in a way, I think also don't make in the first year. You also prepare the team better for the Premier League, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, sometimes that extra year does help. So then the year after that, and this is 1920, right, where you guys were promoted, and then you ended up in the league. The first season was 2021. And this is what I vaguely remember. You did reasonably well, right? You ended sort of the first season? Ninth, right? 9. Yeah, exactly. You were in the top 10 there, which was obviously amazing result coming up. This season is a little different story, right? You kind of hanging a little more around the bottom there, and it's been challenging. What's the difference again between the first year and the second year in the Premier League?
But the difference was, I think, the players a little bit tired of the system, and mentally and physically tired. We have a coach that we have followed for 2 years. We wanted him already,
right.
And we were planning to have a transition in the summer, but we have anticipated, and he brought good energy, motivation, and more calmness around the team and the staff.
Right.
And I think this moment is important to be confident, but also be calm.
I don't know. It's true. And, I don't own a football team, but I own esports teams. And I promise you, it's the same feeling. Sometimes the way these guys, they're obviously young kids too, in some cases, in their early 20s. It's hard to keep them always on track, even though you think you have the best players. So it's an interesting journey there. Andrea, let's chat a bit about sort of the last things maybe here in terms of looking back at 20 years of your career. If you go back now to the early days of when you came to Asia and you were sort of finding your space and trying to what were the sort of some moments you would share with a young executive coming into the industry? Where should he go, right? We both did it. We both kind of started in Asia and built our business to some degree out here, and others obviously did in other parts of the world. But what would you sort of, your sort of tips and tricks of, your career?
Look, I'm very pleased and I'm grateful to Asia for what I've learned, especially in negotiation and building and getting the trust of people. There was extremely instrumental and fundamental important to succeed in that part of the world. You have done the same. So, but if I could be back 20 years, I would go US. I would go America, and I would be in New York. I think it's the only place where they understand me when I'm speaking.
Okay. That's funny.
So, it's not a regret, but if I could be back again, I would do that journey differently.
You would start in the US, okay.
Yes, definitely, 100%. But in my experience, I think it was valid for Asia, but it could be valid everywhere. Is first we need to deliver something to get the trust of the other parties, not the third parties, partners, clients, whoever. Only when you get the trust, then everything else come. And second, that I give generally to all the young people is to don't focus on the destination, but focus on every day. Just do the job every day, do your best every day. Everything else will come. Because most of the common mistake is to focus on the goal, on the destination, and not on everyday activity. And that's a mentality that you need to have to be successful, I think.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's well said, and I would completely agree with that. Now, one of your passions is play for change, right? I think it's something you started already 10 years ago, I think. Talk a bit about it.
Yeah.
This is obviously, not business so much for you, I think, right?
It's simple. The idea is to use our relationship with sports and media to do something good for the young generation, particularly for the youth and the unprivileged children. I know you also are active you've been active in many activities, in charity and in social activity. And I'm proud to say this project is gradually getting better and better, and every year we do something more. So We have done also with the support of UEFA Foundation and H&M a good project in south of Italy, in Napoli, where we have renovated a gym for autistic children and create program for them, a sports program for them. But this year also we've been a bit popular because we have contributed to rescue 130 people, women footballers and their family from Afghanistan.
Wow.
To UK. So it was a difficult project that when it was presented to me, I didn't even know how to start it. But then I found a way to, together with cash from Football for Peace, to facilitate the entrance of this group into Pakistan. And then we brought from Pakistan to UK with the Home Office securing the visa for the group. And now they are in Doncaster in the UK. They're learning English and they are playing football. So it's a fantastic beginning of a new life for these people.
Amazing. Wow, great. Very nice. Now, last thing here, maybe, which again, I think I remember from that video I was watching. I think you're talking about taking risk and the adrenaline which comes with, being an entrepreneur is sort of what drives you. And that's, I think there is a saying out there, is that the difference between someone maybe who's, has a regular job and, works for someone else versus an entrepreneur, it's really the level of risk an entrepreneur is willing to take and or can stomach, right? Can deal with that risk which comes with it. Do you feel that's one of your biggest strengths, that you have a big appetite for it and you know how to deal with it mentally, or how would you describe it?
I would say that you need to take rational risk. Because when you know your things, the risk is that for somebody else, look, a high risk for you is not that high. Mm-hmm. So that is very important. Because I remember, I give you a small example. But when we were in the same business agency, I remember paying the rights of Premier League in Vietnam double of the previous cycle. Right. And everybody, I thought I was crazy. And then I ended up to sell for double than what I paid. Wow. So why? Because why? Not because I was a risk taker. Because I studied the market for 5 months. I knew that it was really fragmented. And everybody wanted to have the Premier League, but no one would have the budget to pay singularly the premium price alone to buy exclusively. Right. So we create several packages, and at the end everybody bought in the product without spending more than what they couldn't. Mm. And that generated basically double than what I paid. That was already double than before. Yeah. So this to show that the risk is a calculated risk when you know well what you're doing. No? Right. Even Leeds is a big risk. To invest 100 million in a football team is a big risk. But you know that you can create a project, and if you have consistency in the project, in the people, you can deliver the result. Yep.
And I think the difference to football, or in this case where you own the team, to what we both did in the media rights world, the media world is much quicker, right? The rights you own are always for a period of time, right? And if you after 3 years you make no money, you're never going to make that money back unless you get the rights again, right? So it is a completely different risk taking than in a club where, as long as they play football, at least there is, the club is there and there's certain value. Of course, which league they play makes a difference to the value, but there's a different in level there for sure. But our risks, we both took when buying media rights. It was very different, right? And there was definitely speculation, and we got things wrong. And I know there are stories of you when you guys bought certain rights, and obviously lost money on it. And there was always a bit of both, right? You got to take the wins and the losses as they come.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Andrea, this was a lot of fun here, going back into the, memory lane here. Obviously, when we met and watching you, of course, with your career, hanging out at the Sportels and having a couple of
Marcus,
drinks.
1 point, actually, to add 1 point on the risk-taking, I think I've learned over the years to take a risk, listen more to my management, no? So in the past, I listened only to myself. Now I listen much more to the people around me. Okay. So I compromise more on the risk taking with other people voices around me than before.
I think that comes with age.
Yeah, probably. I still lead the decision. For example, when I wanted to change Marcelo Bielsa was a very difficult decision, and I led that. But I didn't take it without the consensus of everyone around my table.
Right. Yeah. So you're looking for the input.
Yeah,
now.
I still led the decision, and it was a risky one. But I had to obtain the consensus of the three people around me.
Yeah. Makes sense. And if I compare myself how I operated 20 years ago to what I'm doing now, for sure, I think you do listen more. I think our ears are getting a little smarter than just our mouths when we were younger, right?
Yeah, also because you work more as a coach now. Before you were doing the job yourself, so
Correct.
you do it and you don't listen because you know what you're doing. Now somebody else does for you. You delegate, and so you need to share the decision with them.
Yeah.
It's fundamental.
Great points here. And Andrea, like I said, this was a lot of fun. I'm sure we could keep going and keep digging around all sort of stories here and parallels of our careers, but enjoyed that. Have a great time there in Cape Town and in South Africa. And maybe we'll see you back soon in London or someplace.
Thank you. With pleasure.
Definitely.
Pleasure, London. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me. All the best. Thank you much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Sports Entrepreneurs by Marcus Luer podcasts are a collection of interviews and stories. All content in this podcast is the copyright of Marcus Luer. Reproduction and distribution of the presentation without written permission of the owner is prohibited. All rights reserved.